One of the facts about cartoons in the distant past is that a lot of people were illiterate, and that had to do with class, but they were not blind, and they could see images and they could understand cartoons which have a language of their own. So that I think one of the reasons that everyone from King Philippe was upset with Daumier's and Philippon's caricatures of him as Le Poire, the pear. He knew the masses were seeing these things and were making judgments about him, right up until Boss Tweed, who famously said of Thomas Nast's cartoons, "I don't care what they write about me, but get rid of those damn pictures." Poetic justice. When Boss Tweed was traveling in Spain and on the lam, in effect, he was turned in by people who had recognized him from Thomas Nast's caricatures of him. One of the interesting things in life is that there is, as Columbia's neuroscientist Eric Kandel would tell you, there are experiments which show that people recognize caricatures before they recognize the actual photographs of the real people. Cartoons speak in a visual language of their own, and you can't answer them with words. And one of the reasons that I think people get so upset by cartoons, or the people who identify with the victims of the caricature, is that there's no, if you don't like an article, you can write a letter to the editor, even if it's only in your head. If you don't like a caricature of you, there is no such thing as a caricature to the editor or a cartoon to the editor, unless you happen to be a brilliant caricaturist. And then the second reason is so people feel impotent because they don't know how to answer it. The second reason is the suspicion that this caricaturist may be right. He may have caught the real me. Maybe I am this avaricious, greedy person he portrays. David Lowe's cartoons of Adolf Hitler were quite sweet. He showed him to be an object of fun, and yet every time one of them came out, Hitler would call a meeting of his general staff and he would go through the roof. And later, the chairman of the board of the paper that David Lowe was writing for, was doing his cartoons for in London, actually paid a visit to Germany because they banned his magazine. They asked them how they could get his paper to be unbanned. He said, "Fire David Lowe." It was that simple. Dictators like these guys, they don't object to be seen as horrific monster world beaters. They want to beat their chest and show the world, "Be afraid of me." When you show them to be fools and idiots and jerks and buffoons, in effect, that's what they really object to. I think people always read their own paranoia, their own fears, their own hopes into works of art, and cartoons make statements that people can accept in different ways. The famous one, the New Yorker cover by Barry Blitt, showing the Obamas doing a fist bump dressed in camouflage terrorist uniforms to caricature right-wing views of the Obamas. A lot of people took it to be a statement that's what the Obamas were, that they were terrorists. Most of the regular New Yorker readers understood what the cover was, but it was many who saw it in other forms who got outraged by it, and then some New Yorker readers canceled their subscriptions because of it. In 30 years at The Nation, only once did the staff march on my office with a petition demanding that we not publish something. What they protested was a cartoon with the petition by David Levine, and it was a caricature of Henry Kissinger at the time of the Caribbean Basin Report. A young woman who was our assistant circulation manager actually said was that The Nation is supposed to be against stereotypes. This cartoon shows sex as something that an active male on top does to a passive woman on bottom. We're supposed to be against that. I said, well, yes, that is the stereotype that it draws on to show to make David Levine's comment. But we ran it, and we ran a long exchange of letters about it. But the obvious thing didn't occur to me that it was a cartoon that was politically incorrect rather than just a proposition. And that I didn't focus on until the Danish Muhammads came along, and I realized that the caricatures and the fact of the image was at the heart of it. And when I began to look into it, I saw that going back in history from Daumier right up to a few years ago when a Palestinian cartoonist was assassinated on the streets of London, that people have, you can say overreacted, but reacted to cartoons with deep emotional reaction. And I wanted to know why, and I wanted to collect examples of it, and I wanted to rethink some things that had happened to me in my own experience as an editor who dealt with a lot of great artists.